I love this vegan almond cookie dough because it can be used for so many different types of food art, from crusts to decorations to molded details. Since this recipe doesn't contain any eggs or butter, it keeps its shape really well when baking and doesn't spread or puff. The sticky texture can, however, be a little tricky to work with. Be sure to watch until the end for my tips and tricks on getting the very most out of this recipe and the designs you create with it. In a food processor, add 270 grams almond flour, 130 grams coconut sugar or granulated sugar, and 60 grams arrowroot powder. Pulse until combined. Then add 65 grams unsweetened applesauce and 30 grams of vanilla bean paste. Process until fully combined and the dough sticks together and forms a ball. It will be slightly sticky but not at all gooey and should hold a finger imprint without any issue. I love using this recipe for pie and tart shells. It can be rolled very thinly and baked to firm texture that holds up to a lot of different types of fillings. I always par bake or blind bake my almond cookie crusts. Because this dough tends to be pretty sticky, I always roll it between 2 sheets of parchment paper, generally to a thickness of about 1/8 inch. Cut it to size with a sharp knife and then press the dough firmly into a greased tart ring or pie pan. If it gets too soft or sticky to work with at any point, just pop it into the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes before continuing. You can easily patch any tears by pressing the edges gently back together. Trim the excess dough and dock with a fork to avoid bubbling. To blind bake, bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for anywhere from about 15 to 25 minutes depending on the size of your shell. I bake until it's a pretty toasty brown because I like a firm crust. I hand cut a lot of my decorations and cookies, which can be a little challenging with this sticky dough. It helps to start with very chilled dough. Then I usually dust the surface with a little additional almond flour. I use laminated templates and cut around them with a very sharp craft knife that I wipe clean after every few cuts. To ensure a precise shape, I use clay or fondant tools to press around the edge of my laminated template. Bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit until toasty brown. This recipe is my go-to for 3D details and molded cookie shapes. I love using it to create strands of cookie hair like this because it will hold the twisted shape when baking. I generally lay out my hair strands on a laminated template, then chill the cookies until they're firm enough to move to a baking sheet without ruining the shapes. Once baked, you can use royal icing or tempered chocolate to glue them to the base decoration. This creates a really fun pull-apart element when eating the pie or tart. Because this dough holds its shape so well, it also works great in molds. Simply press the dough firmly into a mold, chill until firm, remove and bake. When creating details like this, I generally paint directly onto the baked cookie with food coloring. Happy baking, and I really hope you enjoy this versatile recipe as much as I do.